Hello, friends. It is 4 o'clock on a Thursday in June 11th to be specific. And it is our first Facebook Live of June for Ask the Trainer question and answer. We are going to be doing these every other week over the summer, and then we'll see how we're doing once things kick back up in fall. I know we had a pretty crazy rainy day today, and hope all of your dogs are doing all right. I know a lot of them have some thunderstorm anxieties. I am Dana, the Behavior and Training Program Coordinator here at the Animal Welfare Society in Kennebunk, Maine. And today we have a couple different topics to talk about, and hope that you will ask questions as you kind of come around and listen, or if you have any other questions that you can think of, please feel free to type them in the comment section, and I will get to them as soon as I can. So what we are going to be talking about today is barking. Going back to work, so things are starting to change again. So much change since we started doing these. And a few complaints about eating grass. So I want to talk about some of those different topics here. If you have any questions and you are not watching this live, please email us at obedience@animalwelfaresociety.org. That will get to us, and we will be able to answer your questions during our next Facebook Live. You can check out our website, animalwelfaresociety.org, and we have a tips and tricks blog and some other information under our training tab on the website. Happy to help you here. As an update from the Animal Welfare Society, we are slowly starting to open a little bit back up. We have been taking care of our animals here in our community, and we'll be starting to see how that evolves. And as for our training department, we are starting to figure out some plans on how to get some in-person training happening. We are still offering virtual group classes and virtual private lessons. So again, obedience@animalwelfaresociety.org if you have any interest or need in those. Okay, so today I wanted to kind of dive right in. We have had a few people emailing us about dogs barking. And I wanted to talk a little bit that there is no one-size-fits-all answer to barking. And when we look at dog barking and thinking of it as a problem or something that's really annoying for us, we need to first take a look at why our dog is barking. So you may notice your dogs might have a little bit of a different voice and they bark for different reasons. A lot of animals have different types of vocalizations that they make in different situations. And the way that we handle those things is going to be dependent on the function. Why are they making those noises? So a few things as I was looking and putting together of why dogs bark. So one of the big things is alarm or alert barking. So this is, there's somebody on my property, I heard a noise, we need to, somebody's coming to the door, I saw something that you need to be aware about, and they are alerting you or other animals in their group that something's happening. So this is going to be a little bit more of an insistent bark and something that might be a little bit louder. We have dogs who bark because they're anxious and they are uncomfortable, so they're barking to let us know that, or they're barking to just relieve some of that stress. Some people are nervous talkers, or if you think we're fidgeting, it could be a whiny kind of barking that allows them to let us know that they are anxious. They could be barking because they're bored. Barking is a self-reinforcing behavior, so they could just be barking to hear themselves bark or to let you know that they need something else to do. This kind of goes in with demand barking. So if you have a dog who you finally sat down to watch TV or eat dinner, and your dog is standing there and just barking at you, we typically call it demand barking. We have dogs who bark when they're frustrated because they can't get to what they need to get to or can't perform a behavior that they're looking to perform. Dogs who bark in greeting or play. A lot of people don't want to bring their dogs into group play situations because their dogs learn how to bark, and a lot of dogs do have playful barking. So that's something important to take a look at as well. All of those things are super different. So if we have a dog who has barking because they are anxious, and we have a dog who's barking a lot because they're playing, we would treat those differently. Kind of some general advice, though, is making sure your dog's needs are met. So that's physical exercise, making sure they're getting walks, runs, aerobic exercise, time to jump and play and run, because that'll ease some anxiety. It would ease any boredom, demand barking, and kind of take out some of that frustration and play. So that'll hit a lot of targets. We want to make sure that they are mentally exercised as well. That they get a chance to sniff, see new things, be a dog, so have that enriched life of doing natural dog behaviors. And again, that'll also address any boredom or frustration your dog might be having. Think of a management plan. So if your dog is alarm or alert barking every time someone walks by the house, your management would be to keep them away from the areas where they're allowed to just perch in the window and bark at everything that comes by the house. A lot of times if they are demand barking and you start yelling or feeding into it, we're also reinforcing that barking behavior. So we want to make sure that we're not feeding into it. We have the environment managed. If they're barking and greeting when people are coming over, maybe we have them in another room or crated away from the front door so that they can greet people a little bit more appropriately, and then take into aspects some training. So if it's an anxiety barking, we would want to address the anxiety through training, figure out what is going on there that they can, that we can help them with, feel more comfortable greeting or play barking. Again, management and then training, not feeding into things, giving them more appropriate things to do. For alert barking, calling them off and saying, yep, I got it, thank you. Do this more appropriate behavior instead. So those are some of our general barking advice that we have going on. If you need more information, happy to help you out. Email us, obedience@animalwelfaresociety.org. We can talk about, if you page back through some of these Facebook Lives, we've talked about positive interrupters before, and it is the tool that I use the most to help interrupt barking and lead them in a new direction. But summary is find the root cause of the barking first and then go from there. So, okay. In our ever-changing environment right now, and we had started these Facebook Lives because of the COVID-19 pandemic and everybody very quickly having to work from home, stay at home, not being able to gather in public. And here in Maine and then other states throughout our country are starting to ease up on some of those restrictions and kind of figure out more ways to interact in person, and we put all these safety things in order. So we're seeing dogs who have been with us for about 12 weeks all of a sudden need to be on their own again. And if you got a new puppy anytime in that last 12 weeks, they've never really learned how to be home alone without you. So we need to work on that back end. So preventing some of that separation anxiety, working on it now as we're starting to roll back into what may be a more normal schedule. Start intentionally spending some time away from your dog. So whether you're using a gate, a crate, or just leaving them in another room, giving them a food puzzle, something to chew on, creating a safe haven, leaving them, and going into another part of the house. If your dog's fine with that, but showing a little bit of stress when you actually leave, then again, creating that safe haven, giving them something really yummy to chew on, walking and starting to walk by approaching the front door, opening and closing the door, desensitizing, counter conditioning that the door is not a scary thing that indicates necessarily that you're leaving, and then starting to spend some short times outside and back in. And when I say short, it can be really short, like closing the door behind you and coming right back in. So like the count of 2 breaths, to walking around a block. If your dog is not actually anxious, but you just want to be a bit proactive, just make sure that you're generally like going out and taking a drive, getting groceries, leaving your dog at home for some longer periods so that they're getting used to being on their own without you, being able to self-soothe, giving them plenty of things to do. So making sure that they have some novel toys, making sure that they have something to chew on before you leave, making sure that they've gone to the bathroom, had food and water. All of those needs are met. Maybe spending a little extra time earlier doing some physical or mental exercise and some training before we leave them on their own. Starting with shorter periods of time. So it might be a little unfair to your dog if you were home for 12 weeks and all of a sudden you're out for 8 hours. If you know ahead of time that you can start to break it up and go for half an hour, a couple hours, and build up to that it can be 8 hours if necessary or longer. If your dog was used to staying home on their own before all of this, but is, so now it's just kind of a refresher. That's all it is just start to get kind of ease back into your normal routine. If you have a dog who's never had to deal with this before, go very slow and create a positive interaction with you leaving. So high value food. Sarah had a question, is there a good safe toy that we recommend for leaving a puppy when they need to be alone? Yes. So you want something that you've watched them with before and know it's not something that they normally destroy. And that's the first thing. The official disclaimer is, I think most toy manufacturers are going to say don't leave alone with your dog. But if it's something that you've watched them with, you know that they just are comfortable chewing on it and leaving it alone. It's not like a stuffy toy that they rip apart and then eat the squeaker. You can leave them with it. I recommend typically a hard rubber Kong or Westpaw makes some good harder rubber or silicone toys. I look to make sure it's non-toxic and safe just in case they do ingest it. And then for me though, I normally would just do a frozen, like peanut butter or yogurt, put it in, pop it in the freezer, and then they'd get a frozen Kong when I was leaving. And that's general good advice. You can try something like a no-hide, anything that they could chew on and eat and ingest, and that's part of it, but not balling up. So it's not a raw hide, but no hides are things that are going to dissolve a little bit easier. Again, every dog's an individual, so just make sure that it's something you've given to them before and you know that they're not going to destroy. They usually eat safely, and there's anything that's not going to wear down to something so small that it could be a choking hazard. That's my general advice. I hope, Sarah, that answers your question in a really roundabout way. Okay, so going back to work, ease into it. Start to intentionally make that part of your routine of leaving and making it a really positive experience when you do. And then the last topic I have for today is an easier one about eating grass. So as spring's been coming, you may notice that your dog has been munching on those tasty greens in your yard, and a lot of people ask why. So there's a few different reasons why dogs do this, or why we think dogs do this. And the biggest myth is because they are not getting enough nutrients. Mostly prove that that's not the case, because a lot of dogs who have a really well-balanced diet still eat grass. So probably not that they're not getting enough of what they need. However, if your dog is casually grazing, slowly chewing things, seem to be really like munching on grass and enjoying it, it's probably more because they're bored or just like the taste. And then if they're kind of like grazing and chewing but seem a little bit kind of uncomfortable, it could be a sign that they are anxious. If you notice that they are eating grass very quickly and not seem to be like enjoying the taste or really chewing it, it could be because they are feeling sick and are trying to induce vomiting. So there are some theories that it is an instinctive behavior to induce vomiting when they don't feel well. Either way, whether your dog is actively vomiting because of they're grass eating, or not, but you're want to discourage it anyway. Big tips to consider are keeping an eye on your dog if they're outside. If they are eating grass in the yard and you don't see them, how do you know they really ate grass until they throw it up later? But there's nothing that you can do about it if you're not there. So make sure that you are supervising if you know your dog is a grass eater, or eating anything else for that matter. If you start to notice that they are starting to graze and munch on grass, give them another job to do. So one of my favorite games is then to just play find it. So having a handful of kibble or treats and starting to sprinkle them through the grass so they're more foraging for the treats than eating the grass can really stop that behavior. The other part of it is just doing some training or throwing a ball or some play instead. So while, if your dog is super eating grass, super into it, give them something else to do. If it is because they don't feel well, you need to check in with your veterinarian. So I would be less worried about stopping them from eating grass if they are hoovering it up and vomiting, and more concerned that they need to go to a vet, or we need to consult with a vet because they're having a bellyache or some other sort of medical issue. So, and anytime your dog is doing something out of the ordinary, always a good suggestion to just give a call to your vet's office and say it. So if they're suddenly going to the bathroom in the house, they've never done that before, any sort of vomiting, diarrhea, always just ask what they are, if it's out of the ordinary, when in doubt, call your vet. And if your vet says, I don't know, then you call us and we can help from the behavior part of it. But things can eating grass is kind of one of those funny things that it could be a symptom of a medical issue, or it could just be because they like it and it's sport and it's a behavior thing. And there's a lot of stuff that crosses over between medical and behavior. So always good to have everybody on board for that. And thanks, Sarah. Yeah, I've had a lot of, especially puppies, who are interested in eating grass. Sprinkling the kibble or the food through it makes a more fun game of foraging versus just consuming all the grass. Cool. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to take them now. Otherwise, those are the topics that I have for today. And we are looking forward to getting this summer rolling and being able to see everybody back in person, which is very cool. All right. If you do have any questions and it's after the fact, please email us. Oh, Alicia said, what if it doesn't make them sick? You popped in right after we talked about that. If there are no ill effects from grass eating, you can choose to let them eat it. That's fine. It's probably because they're bored or like the taste of it. And if it's not causing them to have any yucky poops or vomiting, doesn't really matter. And yes, Alicia also points out, really good point. If you have multiple dogs, do not sprinkle food in your yard because it can cause fights. And if you have a lot of dogs in the same place, don't do that. If it's just your dog and there's no resource guarding, making some foraging food puzzles out of your yard is fine. But otherwise, don't do it. But Alicia, if your dogs are not getting sick and they're only kind of grazing and nibbling a little bit, it's your personal preference. Otherwise, you can distract them with something else to do. And Sarah wants to know about what a puppy when they eat sticks. That is going to be a little bit, in general, more harmful than eating grass because there are a lot of sharp points there. So teaching a leave it or walk away cue and providing your dog with something else to find. Give them a toy, give them a long stick or bone-shaped object. They actually make some really great stick toys that look like sticks but are safe for your dogs to eat, and I like to play with those outside with my dog. But generally I would train a drop it if they have it, or a leave it or walk away cue for something if they're kind of going to start searching for sticks to eat, because that can be definitely harsher on the belly and can cause more disruption on the way down for sure. Okie doke. Well, that's what I have for you guys today. If you have any questions after the fact, please email us obedience@animalwelfaresociety.org, and we're happy to answer any of your dog training questions. You can also Give us a call if you need it. We are answering our voicemail as well. And look forward to hearing from you and your puppies. And we'll be doing this again in 2 weeks. So not next week, but the week after, 4 o'clock. And we'll see you then. Take care.